What's up, everybody? Welcome to the NPC Lounge. Today we're going to take you on a journey through the mind of a young warrior princess hell-bent on revenge. Will the clashing personalities living within her tear her apart, or will they remain wholly indivisible?
Alright, Lou, so we've been playing this off and on for the last couple of weeks since it came out. It's been a long time coming for me personally because I backed it way back in the day, like 2015. This is an RPG from Lab Zero, the people that made Skullgirls.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, that was a tremendous game. It came out like 2012, I think it was.
It was a fighting game, right?
Fighting game. Yeah. At the time it stood out because it was, in the indie scene, there wasn't a lot of those coming out. And it was kind of like, it stood out for that. It stood out for its art style. It stood out for how easy it was to just get into it, and the combo system felt really fun. Those people know how to make a game. They know how to present a cohesive package with like cohesive art design and mixed, beautiful animation and all that. So when they pitched that they were releasing this game that you see on the screen right here, I was on board. Yeah. I was completely sold. And what also sold me was that they released like what was basically a tech demo, like just for free, just to kind of pitch people on the game.
I hadn't heard of this game at all until you brought it to my attention as a recommendation to play, and then also as something for us to record for this show. Once you told me that it was a hybrid between a Metroidvania and a turn-based RPG, I mean, those are two of my favorite gaming genres.
Right.
So I was all in, and I'm happy that that you brought it to my attention because I don't think I would have played it otherwise.
It's a tough nut to crack because there's a lot of little things I want to talk about this game. It's not that it's a particularly deep game or anything like that, but let's back up a little bit and let's talk about the art design. You're greeted with this gorgeous thing animated by Studio Trigger, the people who made Kill la Kill. It sells you on this look of this game, and you wish the rest of the game looked like this. It doesn't.
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
No.
You come across a cutscene, and I'm not talking about like a back and forth dialogue cutscene between a character. Even then, those feel a little weirdly like just there.
Yeah, I'm a hot-blooded teen.
Well, a very strange one at that.
Mm-hmm. I'm talking about like the cutscenes that transition the story forward.
Right. What would traditionally be cinematic cutscenes.
Yes, correct. You would think that it would have the polish and look and feel of this well-produced anime intro, but it's just a still image, kind of lightly animated. Maybe there's some motion of the camera moving across the frame, and then you don't really have many sound effects to go with what's happening. Like, is this really selling it?
An example that we talked about, which, spoilers, when your father dies in the game, that cutscene in particular, it was the one I noticed, mostly because it was one of the freshest ones in my mind, having played through the game last night. I did make that mental note where I thought to myself, man, this is really weird, and not necessarily taking me out of the game, but it's just really weird the way they presented these cutscenes with still images and just text. And they leave it up to me and to all of us to fill in the blanks and fill in certain things, certain emotional depth, and certain things that can only be conveyed so far through voice.
Dad, are you? Oh no, this looks bad. It looks really bad. You, what have you done?
Yeah, because the setup is fine. You got a typical revenge story, very, cliche in a way. And then you find out that the girl has some sort of key to opening some sort of evil spirit, and she unleashes it on the world or something, and that's why she's blue in some cutscenes. I don't really understand.
Oh.
I don't find myself caring as much about it as I should. And I guess that's kind of a bit of a disappointment because I still always think back on playing that tech demo years ago and thinking back, how are they gonna flesh this out into a full game? I really want to see this,
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, I think it feels like maybe this game needed a little more time in the oven in those regards. It just felt half-baked.
I've trained every day, ever since I could crawl. And if you want to fight, I'm bringing it to you!
It's definitely a fun game. I'm not as deep into it as you've been. Just initial thoughts on the game are, it's a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying the writing so far in the game and some of the characters behind the delivery of those lines in the writing.
Ajna, I hate him. Can't even get a good fire going in here.
Were you trying to set him on fire?
Maybe a little. cool.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like, obviously it's an RPG where, the trope is that you're gonna get a bunch of people in your party. And in this particular game, everybody has their own backstories and their own motives and stuff like that. But like what sets it apart is just like you said, it's the writing, it's the tone, it's the delivery. Like, so, for as good as this game looks and like as neat as some of the character designs are, something I have to point out is just the background NPCs in some of the cities. Holy shit, it's off-putting. And I say that just because of the contrast between the well-designed characters like Ajna and company and then the shit you see in the background. Those are backer rewards. That was a level of backer reward in this game where if you donated a set amount of money, they would let you create your own character to be flavor in the world.
Oh no!
Now that flavor isn't necessarily what you want. I'm not necessarily the one for that sort of thing, especially when you have shit that looks really good.
Yeah.
It's like nothing, it's the consistency is like kind of all over the place with that.
Keep it cool, will you?
I'm sorry. I just hate them so much.
So this game came from Lab Zero, which Skullgirls is a hell of a fighting game, and for me, I've poured a bunch of hours into that game, and immediately when I played this, my mind wanted to think that this is a fighting game. And I don't know if I'm connecting some dots there or what, but the combat inherently to me feels like the way your mind processes building a combo in a fighting game.
Oh yeah, I don't blame you for that at all. I mean, just given the fact that there's different directional inputs that you can select while you are battling, and those directional inputs determine what the attack looks like and what it does, definitely inherits that from a fighting game system.
Let's back up a little bit and let's explain kind of what the combat system is. From my understanding, this game borrows heavily the combat system from Valkyrie Profile, which is an RPG I never played back in the PlayStation 1 days.
Same, never played it.
Yeah. But I heard that it had, similar combat to this. It's your typical kind of like party-based RPG combat. You start off in kind of like a diamond type of formation, right? Everybody's bound to a face button on the controller, and then you have that face button under your character as many times as you can attack. You hit that button once, your character attacks. Now what makes it interesting and special is that the characters can attack out of order or in a particular order, however you want to do it, really to synchronize your attacks to output the most damage. You want to just maximize your damage output and min-max it as much as you can. There isn't really much depth to it other than what you're seeing there, and numbers seem kind of arbitrary by nature just because when you level up, the numbers just kind of go up. There's no hidden stats, there's no pouring points into anything like that, which is kind of like why I think this combat is. The combat's great, it's well designed, but the game itself is a little shallow.
Well, this doesn't change anything. I'm still gonna destroy you.
Yeah, to the point of, the min-maxing the damage type thing I was talking about, you don't find out how to do that, how to maximize your damage output until you get to like probably the first city in the game, and even you have to meet an NPC that's like this wounded warrior or some shit like that, but he teaches you how to fight, and he goes and lives in your mind, your headspace, and all that stuff. And
that's interesting that they put it behind that type of NPC wall, for lack of a better word, on how to min-max your attacks, because I think, yeah, like honestly, I haven't even gotten to that part yet, and it sounds like it's pretty early. I guess I'm really early in, but
I guess technically you could button mash.
Let's call a spade a spade. I was button mashing. But I mean, granted, while button mashing, I'm trying to think strategically and I'm trying to pinpoint, because like you said, the game doesn't really tell you, oh, this attack is good for this much damage or anything like that.
Right.
So it was more of trying to figure out, okay, when I attack with this guy with up and triangle, it does this much damage. If I do it twice in a row, it does this much damage. If I chain it with this basic attack, it does this.
Right.
So it was learning on the fly.
Correct.
Pretty much, before getting to that NPC that you were talking about.
And he has like little tips for you, like in terms of like, oh, the perfect block.
Which is something I'm still learning. Those are hard.
Yeah, they're hard, but once you get the timing down, it's pretty straightforward. Something that does help out big time is, I forget the name of them, but they're the two NPCs that you meet early on that you give them the power gems or whatever.
Okay.
That they live in.
Yeah,
the
one is a nun and the other is a priest. I forgot their names,
exactly,
but yeah.
They're actually useful because defensively, like if you bring the defensive guy the power shards or whatever, it makes it so like the next upgrade, I don't know what happens after the one I'm at, but the upgrade that I have currently, if you do a perfect block, it heals you for 1. just for one damage, and it negates their damage completely. So it's like it's worth it to like seek those things out, because in like the one for the offense is like a steeper cost of entry, but it's more worthwhile because you get a whole extra attack that you can do.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so like right now I think you can, like at the outset you can only do 2, right?
Actually, I got to a point last night where they went up to 3.
Yes. And I think that that's just the story, like forcing you in that direction to be like, hey, if you want to seek these out, you'll get a 4th slot. I want to get to that. I haven't gotten into it because unfortunately it's not like total. You spend it as currency for one guy. You know what I mean? Like one or the other. So it's like what you want to upgrade.
Focus.
I wish the game told you more about like what things do what and how everything like, you know.
Yeah, 100%.
That's my big thing. Like, I feel like this game excels at the game design in general, but it's very shallow. The numbers are arbitrary. The combat is the only thing that really pushes it forward and makes you want to keep coming back to it, because the Metroidvania platforming sure as shit doesn't really. It's like very basic.
What just happened? It sounded different that time. I think it's retreating to its lair.
The map system in this game is a little off-putting, to say the least. In a game like this, in a game that has Metroidvania elements, and being a Metroidvania fan as much as I am, I would expect more out of the map system for a game like this. Tell me what these levels are so I know that where I need to go once I get certain powers.
Right.
Where in traditional Metroidvanias, you'll see some sort of color on the map dictating, hey, once you get this item, go back here and you'll be able to access this. Where in this game, that's signposted by question marks, which could literally mean anything. Anything. And that's a little off-putting as well. There's no gear? I could have sworn I get gear at some point. I know she gets her axe, but...
Yeah, but that doesn't like boost your attacks or anything. It just means that now you can do this attack in the Metroidvania, like...
Right, you can open up these areas.
Like there's little things like, oh, she'll get a spear, right? And the spear, she can use it in the Metroidvania sections of the game to like launch herself to like platforms that she couldn't get to before. Right. And then when you get into the combat aspect of it, now suddenly you find out she has a spear that she can use in her attacks. Great, fantastic. But that doesn't boost any damage, it doesn't do anything. It's just there. It's just another tool in her arsenal to really just kick enemies' asses. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really make a huge difference.
So then, I know there's a level up system in the game. Does the leveling really not do anything? Besides allow you to chain more attacks together, I guess?
But the leveling isn't even tied to the like chaining more attacks, because the chaining more attacks is based on you finding those crystal shards.
Interesting.
So the leveling just feels completely arbitrary to me. Like I unless I'm missing something here, but like I've dug through every menu, I've looked up and down. There's nothing there that says, you know, anything about anything. It's just you level up, you look at your party's thing, there's a heart with a number next to them. I don't know if that's their level. I don't get it. The game doesn't explain it.
Right. I don't know what that means either, because I remember looking at it when I was playing the game last night, and Dar's number was always negative.
Yeah.
Is it still negative for you?
It's still negative, but it's going higher up and like lower in the negative.
Right. Where if you started negative 25, now it's like at negative 10. When we started this conversation, I felt one way about the game. But now that you're deeper in it and telling me more about the game, I'm starting to feel another way. I'm still gonna experience it for myself, but it sounds like it's a little disappointing.
I want to stray away from using that word necessarily, at least in terms of how I feel about it.
Not disappointing, just not what you were looking for?
I guess so. Like it didn't exactly meet my expectations, but I'm still having fun with it.
Right, and that's I think the biggest thing is that regardless of my time with it or your time with it, I'm still having fun.
Ajna, you are the grossest, most disgusting person I've ever met in my life.
So yeah, I guess all things considered, I'm still really enjoying this game. Like, I might not finish it, but I'm digging what I'm playing, you know? Is it gonna be enough to pull me all the way through? I don't know.
Right.
Probably not, if I'm being honest. I know I'm at the halfway point. I'm about 11 hours in. I know this game is about 20. I would like to at least unlock one of the 9 crossover characters, which I know you were super jazzed about when you found out that they were there.
Oh no, yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to learn how these crossover characters from these other games come into play in this game. I know I saw, I don't know who the characters are, but I know some of the franchises mentioned were Shovel Knight and Hyper Light Drifter, and what was the other one?
We had
Transistor. But yeah, I mean, to your point about finishing the game, I'm only about a quarter of the way. If the game is 20 hours, I'm only about 5 hours in, so I've done about half of what you've done. I'm still on the fence as well. I don't know if I'm gonna finish it. As much as I love Metroidvanias and JRPGs or just RPGs in general, I don't know if this is the game for me. But then again, I'm only about 5 hours in. Traditionally, most people would say that's enough to know whether or not you like it, but there's something there. So I want to continue to explore it. I want to continue to experiment and see what I can find or what I can pull out of it for myself. Maybe it's something that I end up really, really enjoying. Even if none of us finish the game, that's not a detriment to the game at all. I see it as, and we had this discussion way before we sat down to record this episode, where it was like, this could be a version 1 of a genre, of a new genre that's coming out that manages to merge these a Metroidvania and an RPG together, and the next iteration of this, whether it be from these same developers or someone else, could take everything that this game established and just make it a little bit better.
Right.
Omit a few things, create a few new things, or just, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just take it, make it a little bit better. And when that game and that day comes, that'll be really awesome.
Yeah, like this concept just with more depth.
Yeah.
That would be great. Like I could see like the Valkyrie profile, like combat catching on. So that's gonna wrap it up for today's episode of the NPC Lounge. If you thought our points were accurate or if they weren't, let us know in the comments because we would love to hear from you. And just like, share, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. And until next time, I don't have a catchphrase.